Thank you for coming back to the channel, and thank you, Kaito Ono, for sending me the link to this sparring video. Obviously, I can't read kanji that these videos are titled in. I've played a lot of Yakuza, but that doesn't mean I can read kanji. It just means I repeat the last word of everyone else's sentences as a question. I'm former Cage Warriors lightweight champion George Hardwick. Let's break down the sparring of the man in the black headguard, Kaito Ono, fighting this month in One Championship. Gutted he never had that fight with Murat Gregorian, but it can still happen. I've done a breakdown of some sparring in this room before. Let's get into it. There, Kaito Ono hitting a nice C-cut, right straight into left uppercut. And Kaito Ono, you'll see his palms turn a little bit forward as he's further out, because probably your opponent's going to use a straight punch, and that leaves him better for parrying. He turns his knuckles in, his palms in, to a more classic Dutch guard when he gets a bit closer. There's a nice little check, but it still caught the calf. There he does like a Yoza kick to the lead leg. A lot of those are little distractions, little things to set your opponent to fire something back off of the same side. There his sparring partner went jab, overhand right into left kick. We see the man in the white headguard. He doesn't really do a lot of feints before his jabs or mix intensities of his jabs, and we're going to see him get countered off it a few times. There's a nice parry of the lead jab and block of the right hook from Kaito Ono. Kaito Ono has quite a straight posture, but can still rotate into his shots really well. Similar to Murat Gregorian, similar to a Masashi Kimura. A lot of parries here early on. Kaito Ono, he'll often start the round slow and then build up the combinations later in the round as the counter opportunities go. There he uses that triangle kick into jab. Triangle kick, if you don't know what it is, that's just picking the leg up like you're going to teep, but turning the knee in slightly and hitting with the ball of the foot. So it's very hard to catch. There we see the first big counter. So again, the man steps in with that jab overhand right. As he's falling forward with that overhand right, nothing to close his shoulders again. The shoulders open up when throwing the backhand. He was just really open to that cross and left hook. You probably need to roll out or bring his lead hand into play or some kind of kick or clinch much quicker than that. There, Kaito Ono's using his own jab and keeping his elbows tight to protect against the body hook. There's a nice setup into the knee. Jab cross, uppercut. There again, that overhand right's missing, and then he uses that left hook to guide him into the knee. People just seem to knee each other in the face, in the gym even in Japan. And they don't even have the biggest knee pads in the world on. Those look like you might get a spice bag in them or something. So they're using again, very honest is the man in the white headguard in terms of his jab and overhand right. Not really setting it up. That was slightly better because he used that left kick at the end to kind of close the door. A lot of boxing coaches talk about closing the door with the left hook. You can kind of do the same with the left kick. Obviously, it's a little bit of a different range and it's a bit slower. There he closed the door with the inside low kick. But Kaito has such a good balance and a good stance there. Little jab. Kaito's really good at almost firing the punch from the fist first and then letting the rest of the body follow through instead of always driving. And there's that triangle kick. He pumps his lead hand, and instead of throwing a teep straight up, he gets that little 45-degree angle in, so it comes up into the liver. And then it hurts him at the end of the round. He has to have a little walk around. But yeah, he uses that little... Obviously, it's more effective because he's established his jab, pumps the jab out. It incentivizes the parry. When you're parrying that jab, probably your right elbow's not going to stay exactly where it is. It's going to move, especially in the floor, especially when you're sparring someone who hits as hard as Kaito Ono. We're getting into the second round here. Again, he's using that jab right hook, but Kaito seems to have the read on it. Parry the jab and then just cover up like you can do much more easily in the boxing gloves. And there he's changing the angles of his own jab. Takes a few steps back before his check hook so he could see what was happening. A lot of times, and you see it in MMA when people just check hook blind, like the Masvidal versus Usman. A lot of times people check hook blind. It's like they hit a button, they see the reaction from the opponent, they just go straight into that check hook. That's when they get caught and they throw themselves off balance. Kaito took a few steps back and then saw the right time to throw it, kind of like how Pereira does it, with good weight on the back foot, back heel off the floor, so he can just drag that weight down into the left hook, rather than just spamming the check hook. Spamming the check hook can be a very risky strategy, and we've seen people get caught really badly off of that. There's that calf kick, but the calf kick is off camera unless you're looking at the mirror, and then it would be a southpaw calf kick. 1-2 again. See how Kaito's punches come so much cleaner because his elbows are in tight. If you start MMA coaching or kickboxing coaching, 99% of what you say is keep your elbows in tight. So he's able to block the body shots, frame a little bit, hook, cross, hook there, nice and tight. Everything is super close. He tries to step back in, but he steps back in that jab, cross, into hook. And then what's happening is, because this guy is leading with his overhand right a lot, nice little head guard adjustment, left kick, throwing the left kick as he's adjusting his head guard, but because he's leaning into his overhand right, Kaito's right straight hits him really hard and it just meets the target so much quicker, and we're going to see some creative stuff happen off of that. Little slips off of Kaito. Sometimes when you've got that high guard, oh, there's a nice lever punch, frames with the left. It takes the angle to really throw it over the shoulder into the blind spot, especially with the head guard. But you know, when you're throwing that right hand nice and straight, it's going to meet the target much quicker. He has a Yoza kick. We see a lot of creativity in these kicks. Nice and close. Boom. Because his sparring partner's like foot and knee was turned forward, he could brace for it much better. If your knee's turned out, you know, if like your back foot, your back toes are turned out to the side, it does a lot more damage because that knee buckles. There was a finish in a middleweight K1 fight not too long ago with that. Moving around. Again, parrying and either blocking the overhand right, letting it fall short, or just countering with his right hand. Something as well is when Kaito mainly blocks the punches with a tight high guard, which means that you get used to that high guard always being there as something to touch. But if he suddenly moves his head, you're going to overthrow much more than if he was just trying to slip every punch. This is really nice. Cross parrying. Cross parrying is something you tell beginners to never do because they're getting a bad habit and they're going to get hit with the right straight. But he's confident that his right straight's going to land. He's read it. He's going to lever into that punch and get more power. I want to actually put it back just a few seconds so we can see that again. Boom. He actually gets more power because he's recruiting the big muscles of the back. He's pulling himself into the shot. And he's just confident that even if his opponent did throw that overhand right, he's going to meet the target first with that right straight because he's got good elbow position. There's a counter body hook in close. Counter body hooks are really good. People always expect the counter hook to the head, and it can be risky countering with a hook to the body, but people often don't see it or don't expect it as the counter shot. When I was getting jabbed up by a D1 wrestler when I won the Cage Warriors title, it was the first shot that I dropped him with was a counter left hook to the body in close, because people are always expecting people to lash out with that left hook to the head. Check hooks, that happens so much in MMA, but you rarely see check hooks to the body. Looking very tired. The air is probably horrible. Again, it's like one of these rooms where you're in a long battle in Yakuza. There's one of those cropped lead right straights, lead right hands from Kaito. But it's like one of these long battles in Yakuza when you're down to your last stamina and X, and you just come across this yellow room and you get a little mini boss. But there's something there with the elbows tight and the slightly square shoulders of kickboxing, is you can throw that right hand almost like a jab. It's got a little bit more power than a jab, but it almost just flies out a little bit quicker. And because everyone has this tight guard, you can kind of slot it through a lot easier if you get your shoulder in line with the target, which he does by these small sneaking steps slightly off to the left. You can see him circling into the left, probing with jabs. Nice lead high kick, using the lead high kick the same way a boxer would use a left hook. And there's that same step back counter cross. Again there, when you get used to someone's gloves always being up, blocking, you can always touch them. But then when he moves his head, you're probably going to overthrow and throw yourself off balance a little bit more. Now Inoue does this as well. Really nice combination there, framing. And he manages to land his overhand right. But then Kaito switches his guard into that Stonewall Philly shell. Rarely do you see it in kickboxing because as you turn over, you're going to expose your leg. But in close, probably not the biggest risk of a powerful leg kick there. Some nice jabs into a check hook. This man's head guard is flying all over the place. A lot of little mini breaks, almost like it's the fifth round of a Muay Thai fight with a lot of bets placed on it. 1-1-2. But a nice block again from Kaito. Again, having different defenses is really useful. If you're only relying on double forearm guard, people are going to find their way through it. If you only rely on Philly shell, people will find their way through it. If you only rely on head movement, people are going to find your way through it. The only one is foot movement. Oh, there's another Yoza kick. The only one is foot movement, which is reliably seems to stop everything. But then you'd probably gas yourself out or end up back on the ropes if you try to give ground at every single exchange. Some nice Yoza kicks and liver shots. They're having a little strush around the yellow room. Probably unbearably hot in there with head guards on. There's a triangle kick on the back foot. And he puts the leg behind and lands southpaw. Very, very useful skill to have. Even if you fight 99% of the time orthodox, like a Kaito Ono does, being able to fight southpaw, it's worth investing time in that, because you could end up southpaw, or you might have to pull your leg back into southpaw after a kick. It might just be the safer option. A good example is Cody Garbrandt when he fought Dominic Cruz. Cody Garbrandt is mostly orthodox, but his 2 knockdowns, he was in southpaw. Touching away, different intensities of jab. Now he's practicing a different defense. He rolled that right hook over the top. Very predictable. There's a man in the white headguard. He never flashes or shows his lead hand. There's no real fakes between. So Kaito has this easy time countering him. And he can flex on him with little counter body shots like that. The counter cross hand trap. There he does again. He's timing this jab. He's letting him jab. I would never teach a beginner to parry across left hand to left hand, because you're opening yourself up. There's a right high kick. But I would never teach a beginner to do that. I would teach them to keep the hands on the same side of the tracks. But when you understand it, when you understand what's happening, you can get a really powerful counter from that. Man, on the floor, as you'd expect, very gassing. I've been George Hardwick. If you want to check out more of the videos, there's another Kaito Ono sparring video somewhere on the channel. If you've got sparring videos you want me to break down, send them over. Put the links in descriptions, comment sections, probably. I still don't know how all this works. Check out Patreon, subscribe, various CTA stuff. CTE stuff.